Welcome to Our Future is Kind, a podcast exploring how we build the future we want to live in, one kind act at a time. I'm your host, Michael Neece, president of Our Future is Kind, and your companion in conversations about kindness, leadership, connection, and courage. Each week, I sit down with thoughtful leaders, creators, and bridge builders to explore what a healthier, more humane future could look like, and the choices it takes to build it. These are honest conversations about purpose, culture, curiosity, and what it really means to show up for one another at work, in our communities, and in everyday life. Along the way, we'll unearth practical ideas, small but meaningful acts, and questions worth sitting with, because building what's next is a choice. So let's dive in. Voted one of the top 15 business growth experts to watch by Currency Fair, highly engaging female business strategy keynote speaker and sales futurist Meridith Elliott Powell delivers cutting-edge keynote speeches. She's a former president of the National Speakers Association, speaking to the level of respect she has in that industry. Welcome, Meridith Elliott Powell.
Thank you. I am excited to be here, Michael.
So glad to have you here. I really want to dig into the discussion, but before we do, I introduced you. I would love for you to tell the audience, though, what makes you, you?
What makes me, me? I think that I think when people describe me, they typically describe me as somebody who just views the world a little bit differently. What most people tend to think are challenges and obstacles, I tend to think are opportunities and possibility. And so where most people don't like to tread, that's where I find myself diving into. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I love that. The fact that it sounds like you surf the waves of uncertainty in the world.
Well
Can
said.
you talk? Yeah, can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I think that's a big part of what you help deliver to clients, right?
Yeah. I heard somebody say one time that you are best positioned to serve people based on the person that you once were. And I've really thought about that a lot ever since I heard it. And like most people out there, I have a story. Everybody's got a story in the adversity that they've overcome. And my adversity that I've overcome, I spent most of my life kind of riddled with alcoholics in my life everywhere. By the time I was 36 years old, 6 male members of my family, including my first husband, had all died of alcoholism. I lost my brothers, I lost my father, I lost my husband, everybody to the disease.
Wow.
And that is where I think I learned to thrive in uncertainty, because when you spend your life raised in addiction, everything is always uncertain. You don't know when people are going to be hospitalized. You don't know when they're going to go to jail. You don't know when somebody's going to get angry. You never know what is coming. And from that, as much tragedy as that was, I found ways to find possibility, to find opportunity, to find what could I do here to make this work? And that's what ended up serving me in the corporate world. When most people were disheveled by the fact that we'd gone through a merger or an acquisition or the economy went down, most people, that threw them off balance. I was so used to being off balance that I could take those skills and bring them into the working world. So it's interesting to me in life that what started off as my biggest challenge has become my greatest advantage, because that's what I'm skilled at doing. Whenever there is uncertainty in the marketplace, uncertainty personally, professionally, I'm well positioned to help you get through that.
And you do a lot of that through coaching and through keynote speeches. Why did you choose this as your avenue for helping others?
I did not choose this as my avenue for helping others. So what happened was I was about 40 years old when I went into business for myself. I thought 40 is such a great age. You're young enough that if it didn't work out, I could still get a job, but you're old enough to be taken seriously. You've had enough time in the seat by the time you're 40. And I started out as a strategist, helping companies figure out how to scale despite the obstacles in front of them. Now, this is going to date me, but in 2008, the companies that I had worked with came through that financial crisis really, really well. And people said, would you come talk to our company and tell us what you did for that company? I didn't even know speaking was a business. And it was from that that I found this industry. And the beauty of it was working one-on-one consulting was nice, but you're working with one company. When you speak, you impact so many.
Well, they say that speeches change the world.
Yes.
And I've always loved that. Being a keynote speaker, not on the same scale as yourself, of course, but my father asked me, well, what does that really do for the world? And I said, recite any part of the JFK speech about going to the moon, or Martin Luther King Jr. saying that he has a dream. Like recite any part of those speeches, and why do you remember them? And he suddenly, it was like the light bulb suddenly went on over his head, like, oh. Not to mention the coaches in sporting events.
True.
Right? I mean, you go to the halftime, you go to the locker room, we're down by 5, whatever it is, they can have that conversation, and they turn tides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, I say about speaking is I think this industry really matters because we give people hope. And without hope, information is worthless. You won't act on it if you don't have hope. So you need to be inspired in order to take action. You need to believe in order to take action. And the thing to me about being a coach that I find so incredibly valuable is you and I both we work with leaders. And when you can help a leader, you transform an entire organization. You transform the person working there that's going home that has 3 little kids. And because they're different, their 3 little children are going to have a very different life. So it's a very rewarding industry to be in.
Well, and I've had the great privilege of seeing you on stage multiple times across 2 big NSA events, and just have to say, I love what you do on stage. You own it. You're so graceful, and you give this gravitas, and also just that little hint of humor all the way throughout. And I just love what you do. Thank
you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so let's dig into where kindness fits into all of this. Right now, the world, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you turn on the news, maybe there's not all the kindness that you're used to. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of kindness in world building and in what you do.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking about the fact that, something you said had a dramatic impact on me. And that was that kindness is a choice. And I really thought about that a lot. And then I thought about the fact that when I am kind, I feel how much I gain from being kind. And then how much I lose when I'm not kind. I never feel good about myself, even if I'm justified when I've been mean, right? And so where I think that kindness fits in is I think you create a culture in your company where people feel respected, they feel included, and they feel heard. And you do that, you're going to have a very engaged, very productive, very profitable team. But all of those things can be wrapped up in kindness. Like, I would have described my mother as an incredibly kind and gracious person, but I was scared of my mother. Like, she would have called me on the carpet in the most calm, gracious, and kind way that somebody could, but she didn't let me get away with it. So I think sometimes people confuse kindness with, I don't know, allowing people to walk over them, or creating a culture of kindness at work is one where people are not held accountable. And I see it so opposite. I see it where people are valued, respected, heard, included, but held accountable, because that is part of it.
Absolutely. During a meeting, when somebody says, hey, we don't talk to each other like that.
Yes.
That is a really hard moment of truth telling, and it's kind, but it requires a lot of strength to be able to stand up to somebody who just yelled at someone else in the meeting. Yes. It takes a lot of strength to stand up and say that.
Yes. But it's what, but not standing up and saying it has such a stronger effect, right? Like I was watching the news this week. I'm not really sure why I was doing that, but no kidding. I always watch it because I feel like I need to be informed of what's going on. But I was watching all these things about putting in the new Secretary of Homeland Security, and just how nasty the exchanges were going on between people. And I just thought to myself, I have no respect for anybody. I don't care what side they're on. because I was really thinking about this, about how they communicated it. And so I think kindness is such a stronger word, such a stronger action than we give it credit for in the impact that it can have if you show kindness, but I think it has a greater impact if you do not.
I think that's absolutely true. A friend of mine and I were out walking by a lake yesterday, and a man and a woman were walking their dog. And then she started yelling, and I said to my friend, "That doesn't sound good." And then he started yelling, and then he started physically pushing her
Oh my gosh.
aggressively and assertively. So I ran down the hill, crossed the street, and just stood there within a meter or so of each of them and just said, "We don't touch people like that. That's not okay. And ma'am, are you all right?" Because for me to have walked by and
Yeah.
pretended that everything was okay just leaves her at risk. It leaves a highly charged negative energy situation. And I just can't do that. I mean,
Right.
I know it's an idiotic thing. I don't know if he has, a
Right. A
gun or a
gun or
knife or
whatever.
whatever. But I'm also of a certain age
Yeah.
where, if something bad happened to me, well, I've contributed enough to society. It's all right. But I absolutely hear what you're saying. You have to stand up to the big bully, and you
Hmm.
have to do it in a calm fashion so that you
Yes.
don't heighten the engagement. You actually try to diffuse things. Have you had encounters with leaders or leadership teams where there are big emotions and
Oh,
had to kind of tamp those down somehow?
yeah. So, I think probably more often than not, I have worked for leaders who have yelled, who have screamed, who have been, and even sometimes justifiable. Like what we didn't hit our quarterly numbers. We're way behind. The leader told us to do things and we all chose not to do, um, those things. But I mean, it's really, I can count on one hand the number of leaders that I can remember that were really, really kind in a situation. I'll give you a great example, a huge impact on me. So, my very first job out of college, I went to work for a chamber of commerce. I was working in public relations, and I sent something to press that I did not proof, and I did not ask anybody else to proof. I knew I was not supposed to do that. Like, I was just rushing. I wanted to get it done. I wanted to leave because I wanted to go somewhere at 5 o'clock. And I
Sure.
sent it to press. And it was a pretty big mistake. I'd quoted our CEO incorrectly. Like, not just incorrectly, but I put a big, like, it was a faux pas, huge faux pas. I
Mm.
was so sure I was going to get fired. And my boss called me in and he set me down and he said, he very calmly said, "Meredith, I have a feeling that you know what you did was wrong. And we're going to talk about that step by step. And I want you to understand there are going to be consequences for this, but I want you to understand why there are going to be consequences." And it was the kindest punishment I've ever gotten, but it was a punishment. I've never made that mistake again. It was what he did was he separated the act from the person. Like
Right.
he didn't take me down a tunnel. I was a stupid kid who wanted to go somewhere at 5 o'clock, so I did something dumb, right?
Sure.
But it was far more powerful than any time I've ever. He gave me no reason to get mad at him, and I had to own my own behavior.
Yeah, it is amazing what you can do with this sort of Jedi mind
Yeah.
trick of staying calm and delivering the message. And I love what you say about separating behaviors
Yeah.
from people, because it's very easy to look at a politician these days. I don't have to name
Yes.
any particular name, but to say these behaviors are the person, and therefore I hate the person. I don't ever want them to be in charge of anything anymore. Where ultimately, I want them to change their behaviors,
Yes.
and wagging a finger and yelling at their supporters or at them in particular doesn't help solve anything.
No, not at all. It's one thing I really had to learn loving addicts, is that the level of anger I felt at everything that was happening in our lives, the times that we'd be, no money or things like that. And to learn to probably one of the greatest lessons I learned was to separate loving an individual from the action that they are taking. And what that does is it keeps you in a state of compassion but with a boundary, like you're not being stepped on. And that, because I just cannot express enough how much being unkind eats away at you. I mean, it's taking your joy and your pleasure and your power and your ability to move your own life forward.
I think it's a big part of integrity, right?
Yes.
If you've stepped off the path of integrity, you drag those moments with you everywhere
Everywhere.
until you make amends or until you somehow forgive yourself and figure out how not to do that again.
Yes, exactly.
Something you said earlier in the interview, you mentioned the idea of being very stable during times of uncertainty.
Hmm.
Can you talk just a little bit more about that? Because I find that fascinating, and I think that there's some really powerful thing there that you've got that you can share with us.
Yeah. So, these are things that I think I had to do innately to survive. Like I said, when you live in the household, as many people have, like I grew up then, things were always unstable. And what I learned innately that I've later discovered is a strategy, and it's a strategy I would use with a lot of my clients, is there's two steps to it. First of all, when there are a lot of things that you're worried about, you're having anxiety about. Let's just take what's happening in the world right now. I mean, we've got everything happening in the Middle East. We've got airports backed up like crazy. I mean, you and I fly all the time, and the thoughts that we're going to be able to get anywhere on time are absolutely insane. We've got rising gas prices. We've got inflation. We really don't know what the market is going to be. There's a lot to be concerned about, a lot of uncertainty to give you a lot of anxiety. So the very first thing that I tell my clients is, first of all, let's get it all out. Put down on a piece of paper everything you're worried about, everything you're freaked out about, everything that's keeping you up at night. Just write it all down. And then we're going to separate it into two piles. And we're going to separate it into a pile of what we can control and what we can't control. And the pile of what you can control is no longer than 3 to 5 things. Basically, you can control your health, you can control the work that you do. There's so little you can control in your life. You can't even fully control your health or your relationships, but your behaviors that go to them. And I keep my clients focused on what they can control. That's how you stay stable in the face of uncertainty. But this first step, you can't focus on what you can control until you vent everything that you're worried about. And I think people miss that step a lot. It's okay to complain. Put a timer on your desk. Go like crazy. It's unfair that you lost a job. It's unfair that, your kid is struggling in school. I didn't know why I was raised in a family of addicts. That isn't right. That isn't fair. But I can't do anything. I can't change that. So you vent it and go back to what you can control.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, the Navy SEALs have the idea of controlling what's in your 3-foot radius.
Yes.
And that is such a powerful guiding light for me when I'm trying to decide, well, what are my next actions? Am I distracted by the sounds over there, or am I actually operating within that locus of control, that 3-foot radius?
Yeah, when I listen to people complain, like, I'll be working with the CEO and she's talking about the fact that, that they've had so much turnover and it just isn't right, isn't fair. Why I can't let you stay there is the fact that that you're, even if you complain about everything, you're still going to be in the same space a week from now. Like you haven't changed anything.
Right.
And focusing on what you can control allows you to start to make progress in the face of uncertainty.
I love that. So you're giving them those first few steps as opposed to saying, let's map out the next mile. Let's just map out the next few steps.
Exactly, because we don't know what is going to happen. I mean, the beautiful thing about uncertainty is everybody sees it as a negative, but the truth is uncertainty can lead to positive. Like we could all wake up tomorrow and everything going on in the Middle East could be over. Gas prices could be starting down and something amazing could have happened. We don't have any idea. We expect the negative, but the positive could come.
Absolutely, yeah. So I would love to take you down a little path that I love taking our guests down. It's a thought experiment.
Okay.
Are you willing to jump in with me?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Meridith Elliott Powell, we are jumping into a time machine. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to dial us forward 100 years. And as I'm at the controls, I say, hey, Meridith, guess what? We did all the right things. For 100 years, we didn't make any mistakes. We did all the right things. When I open the doors and we step out into 2126, what are you looking for to confirm that we did all those right things and that we got to the best possible future?
Great question. Number one, I would be looking for peace. I would be looking for like an energy about people that they just look peaceful. I'd be looking for collaboration. I would be looking for an environment where people are helping people be successful, understanding that it's better to collaborate than it is to compete. Of course, I would be looking at a world where people would be thinking about change and excited about change and predicting change. And I'd be looking at a world, I feel like, where failure would be accepted and part of the journey and not judged. And I think I'd take a page from your book where I'd be looking at a world that is, I hear far more kindness in the world than I hear negativity and anger.
Okay, so now here comes the harder follow-up question. I said we did all the right things to make that future. Meridith, what are those right things?
Oh, number one is that we definitely had a vision. Everybody out there has a positive mindset that good things can happen. They know where they want to go and basically what they want to accomplish. People are heavily networked. They believe in relationship before technology. And we've gone back to the old soft skills. And they think about who could they help and who could they work with in order to make those things happen. People are using tools that I've developed or others have developed that help them predict change and to think about change. But probably the most important thing that we did in order to make that happen is we emphasized relationship and connection over everything. It was the most valued skill as we brought people up. And I think what would happen with that is we would start to invest in the wisdom of our elders again. We would start to prioritize children playing on the playground again. Oh, because that's one other thing I would want to see. Everybody would be healthy. Everybody would be spending more time outside than they would be spending behind computers or doing anything like that. So
I love that vision and I love the steps to get there. I want to go live in your future for sure. So on the way, for sure, we will not do all the right things. We will do a lot. And I hope that we get most of it right. But as you are stepping through the world and you have a bad day, things aren't going right. You just have this moment where your mindset kind of goes off track and you're not feeling positive. You're not wanting to connect with other people. Meridith, how do you reconnect with inspiration and with the ability to be kind again?
Yeah, so it's a really good question because I feel like it happens to me a lot. I mean, and I imagine it does to a lot of people. I mean, you get up, you're excited about the day and the day's really kicking off and going well. And then you come back and you lose a client or people, you were excited about a dinner engagement, people cancel on you. I mean, the bottom files out all the time, right? And so it's really three steps for me. It's number one is I keep right here in my desk drawer is my vision. It's my vision of where I see my life, my health, my business, my finances, my relationships, and my spirituality 1 year from now. I read that 3 times a day. I'm resetting my mindset, not for what is happening to me currently, but for what is possible and where I know that I am going. I also, when bad things happen or I'm not positive, I always say to myself my favorite phrase, which is I trust the journey. And that is that, it's everybody expects that things to go well all the time, and they don't. And you have to understand that that's part of the journey and that's part of the outcome. The third thing that I do is something my mother taught me when I was a child, and she said that the fastest way to get past your own problems is to focus on somebody else's. And so if I can leave the house and leave the office, go talk to a customer, go talk to a friend, if I focus on other people, I forget about my own stuff. If I stay in my office, my problems become so much bigger than they actually are. Right?
Yes.
So much bigger. Like if I lose a client, who cares? I mean, it's not the end of the world. There's other people. Like sometimes I'll convince myself and think, oh my God, I'm never going to work again. It's terrible. I can't believe I lost that speaking engagement. And then I go look at my pipeline and my pipeline's really good, or I'll call 2 or 3 customers. So this idea of focusing back on what really matters.
I love that because it definitely I have my own demons that
Yes.
when things get really quiet, those demons get really loud.
Yeah, really, it is, and it's so much. My mother also used to tell me when I was a child, she'd say, "There's nothing a good hike won't solve." And I think that's how I'm fortunate to live near woods, and I think that's so true. If I go outside and I go for a walk, I always feel better.
It's lovely. Yeah. So getting out in nature. Yeah. So hopefully people are furiously taking notes at home, but if not, just go listen to this
Yeah,
part again. And yeah, yeah. You've inspired me. Now I'm going to have to make sure that my vision is something that I'm actually
you've got to be
reviewing all
focused
the
on it.
time.
Yeah,
Because I have seen it as this static thing that I've established this vision statement and I've put it off to the side and I don't revisit it frequently enough. So
yeah.
I love that.
And you really need it. Like I said, when you go through the day and things don't work out, like even you got stuck in traffic and so you missed an appointment and you're frustrated with yourself, go back to that vision and that vision will go, okay, all right, this is just part of the journey. If I've got to get there. This summer, I'm going to speak near Mount Rushmore and I've always wanted to go to Mount Rushmore. So my husband's going to come with me and we're going to go. And I just made a decision. I was going to read about every single president on Mount Rushmore before we went. I'm into Thomas Jefferson right now. And
Okay.
and the amount of adversity those men overcame. If you want to live a life of greatness, you have to understand that getting stuck in a little traffic is part of it. Losing a client is a part of it, right? Yeah. So.
Right. Most of us are not shot at or trying to separate from,
Right.
a former nation.
Right.
Wow. So are there books, podcasts, music? Is there something that you reach for when you want to be calm, to be more centered? Things that you would recommend to our audience to reach for just because you love them?
Yeah. So, one thing I've started to reach for when I want to be calm and more centered is I used to really be a really big listener of podcasts, and I still am. So I'm going to recommend some podcasts.
Sure.
But the thing that I do now in the morning when I'm on the road traveling is I walk in silence with no music, no podcast, just me and my thoughts walking in silence. And that has really started to ground me and just let my thoughts wander anywhere they want to go, kind of clearing my mind. But I'm very, very dedicated to learning. Like if you got up with me in the morning here in Asheville, North Carolina, you see I meditate first thing in the morning. Not impressive, no more than 10 minutes. So don't get to whatever but it's 10 minutes to kind of set my head right. And it's a guided meditation. Then I read my vision. I decide what my goals are for the day. And then I always listen to a podcast. Now, I have a lot of different podcasts that I listen to, but I more tend to listen on the subject that I'm interested in. Like today, sometimes I want to listen to health. Sometimes I want to listen to, a skill that I need to learn. Sometimes I just want to be entertained. And so I always spend 30 to 45 minutes a day listening to a podcast. And at least an hour every single day is reserved for some form of reading, whether it's a book or whether it's an article, but literally, I like to literally read.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Reading is a window into the wisdom somebody took the time to, polish down into a really good nugget of treasure for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that history is so underrated. And there's so much, it's so interesting to me reading about all these presidents right now that, oh my gosh, so many of the challenges they face are exactly the same challenges that we face right now. And they could have used a big dose of your kindness because they were not very kind to one another.
Well, hopefully that's the art, right? Over time, if we go into that time machine and go 1,000 years into the future,
Yeah.
hopefully we walk around and ask them, what was 2026 like? And would you ever want to live there? And they all just universally say, no,
Yeah.
those people were barbarians. They didn't have it together yet. And we're trying, we're trying. And if we all had to get in the time machine and go back to 1026, Would you want to live in 1026 right now, Meredith?
No.
I can't imagine that.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I have really enjoyed this discussion with
Me
you, and
too.
I am really curious. How can people get your services? Where can they find you? How can they be in your orbit?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer, build your network, it will change your life. So if you reach out to me, I will definitely reach out and connect to you. And you can find me on all the social media channels. I tend to live on LinkedIn more than I live anywhere else. So reach out to me there. You can also find me at my website, which is valuespeaker.com, just the words valuespeaker.com. And as I said, connect with me, I'll connect with you.
And you won't be sorry when you reach out to Meredith. You've made a new best friend who can also give you really great wisdom to live your life, and navigate that uncertainty. So, Meredith Elliott Powell, thank you again for being on Our Future is Kind.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it.
This week's kindness challenge. This week, choose kindness by pausing before reacting, focusing only on what you can control, and responding to one stressful moment with calm instead of emotion. Want to stay inspired so you can stay kind? Stay grounded by resetting daily through small habits. Meditation, reading your vision, journaling, or walking in silence. Step away from stress by focusing on what you can control, then reconnect to inspiration through learning, podcasts, reading, or time in nature. Most importantly, remember that progress, not perfection, is what keeps kindness alive in leadership and life.
You've been listening to Our Future is Kind podcast, where building what's next is a choice. Make your next choice a good one and help build the future we want to live in.